Hi, it's Toby from Heavyweight MMA. Today with pro MMA featherweight fighter and boxer, Arlene Blencowe. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Angerfist, man. I was just thinking that name sounds like a death metal band or something. Has anyone told you that before?
Well, it kind of originated from that unintentionally. And then, yeah, it just stuck. So my very, very first fight, I walked out to a song. It was a mashup of songs, and the start was by Angerfist, the band. It was the 2009 Mega Mix. So, yeah, it started from them, but obviously Angerfist, I've well and truly fit into that fight name.
Oh, that's cool, man. I didn't realize it was actually related to a band. So that's correct then.
Yeah, yep. Cool. And the Angerfist band. Not that I'm really into that type of music, but yeah, just that one song. And we made a mashup of things, and yeah, kind of Angerfist is stuck since then.
What do you actually like for your ring songs and your walkout songs? What do you actually normally choose out of interest?
Honestly, it depends on where my head's at in fight camp. Like I've walked out to like my last fight was Simply the Best by Tina Turner. I've walked out to a lot of Imagine Dragons songs. I've walked out to rap songs. I've walked out to Katy Perry, Miley Cyrus and her dad's song that honestly it depends on where I'm at in fight camp. Like some of the songs that hype me up have been like kind of sad, depressing songs, which is weird, but not because it's super strange. It's just where my head's at, how I feel. Yeah, it can be anything really. So I have no idea what the next one will be.
On that, do you ever watch any movies or anything like that, like leading up to the fight that kind of get you G'd up or anything?
Yes and no. I mean, like I said this in one podcast recently. Like, I mean, as a kid, I used to watch like it was the era when the Rocky movies were out and, Bruce Lee movies and, Van Damme and stuff like that. So watching them as a kid, like I was a little bit of a tomboy. Those sorts of things used to get me hyped up. Watching the State of Origin as a kid, watching everyone lined up singing the anthem before the kickoff, that stuff used to get me hyped up. So, yeah, I guess that all planted a seed. No, I think usually now that I do my fight camps in America, I don't fly over, but back when I was doing my fight camps here in Australia and I would fly over fight week, I guess it was sort of different emotions. But I remember sitting on the plane and, watching comedies and crying in them. Like, there's no way I could watch Marley and Me fight week because I'd be a blubbering mess. So, yeah, it's strange. I cried on one movie that was not a movie that I should have cried on. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Definitely get those strong emotions during that time. I tried watching, because I always thought Braveheart was kind of inspirational. I tried watching Braveheart before a fight one time, and I just got the adrenaline pumping too hard, right? Like you shouldn't be doing that. You should be relaxing, not making stressed,
It's interesting. I definitely welcome all those emotions, and it's funny because like a lot of people think, especially with a fight name like Angerfist, you're supposed to be this tough macho fighter, but yeah, like I'm all over the place fight week, and my partner will say the same thing. He's like, 1 minute you're happy and next minute you're quiet and you're this and that. I'm like, well, it's all the emotions, they hit hard fight week. It's very real.
Yeah, so you've had some pretty high-profile fights, man, especially when we talk about, obviously, everyone wants to talk to you about Cyborg, but it's a good example. Like, how did you actually, psychologically prepare? Because you said, like, people show fear and they get scared of her, because you would be, man. She's like the Rocky of the female division or something. I mean, the Tyson of the female division, man. Like, you're gonna be scared. So how did you cope with that sort of or what mechanism did you use?
Especially, the first time, like obviously facing her, but then, because she beat me so easily the first time, there was sort of more nerves coming into the second fight. But I guess I had like that determination that I wanted redemption. But these is probably been, we're going on to 4 years now. I've really been working on the mental aspect of fighting. Before then, I used to sort of, I'd go through the roller coaster of emotions, nerves, all the doubting myself, the pressures, this and that. And I'd just be like, oh, suck it up. Like, it's just a part of fighting. And the last 4 years, I've really honed into, I was working with a hypnotherapist to begin with. And now the last 3 years, I've been working with a sports psychologist. He's based out of Albuquerque. And I work closely with him when I'm at Jackson Wink as well. And it's a big aspect of like my fighting now. Obviously, I work a very, very technical, physical, that aspect of my fight training, but it's just as important to work on the mental side of it. So, you know, instead of like for me, you know, having the fears and the worries and concerns, I welcome those. And obviously how my body reacts when I feel those feelings, I've sort of turned it around to embrace it all. And it's really just made me, I guess, appreciate and enjoy the whole journey of it a lot more, rather than, you know, while you're in fight camp, every pressure, like all those pressures, or, you know, out the back in the warm-up room before you fight, like instead of being a nervous wreck and feeling sick, like it's like I actually enjoy all of it, which is really, really good, because, you know, in 10 years time, as I say to people, I'm going to look back and think, why the fuck didn't I just enjoy all of it? Because, you know, it's memories. So yeah, I'm good. I'm glad that I've just changed that aspect of things.
Yeah, you kind of touched on a point that I like to push with people, like some of the young guys that I've coached. You know, not everyone puts themselves in these positions that you guys put yourselves in, and fighters put themselves in. And you can be in a, you know, that sort of height of emotion and height of, you know, just feeling. Normal people don't get to feel that. So you might as well appreciate it, right? Like, so you've got adrenaline pumping, you're feeling scared, but you're actually experiencing something that not everyone gets to experience. So like you said, you got to kind of learn to embrace it and, you know, appreciate it. You might not enjoy every part of it, but embrace it as something that is unique to fighting. It's not every person in the world gets to feel those highs and lows, you know?
Yeah. Well, even more recently, like my last trip in America, I was actually a spectator at both a live Bellator event, which is the first time I've actually been at a Bellator event that I haven't fought at. So I was cage side for that. I was a special guest, and then I got to go and watch Alex, his last title defense, and obviously Israel Adesanya's fight in Vegas. So it was also super cool to be at both events live, but it made me sort of realize, you know, just sitting in the crowd with people and thinking, shit, this is not where I want to be. Like, I want to be that person that's out the back in the change room. I want to be that person that's making the walkout. I want to be that person inside the cage, because it's a very, very special position. And you're right. You kind of realize when there's tens of thousands of people in the crowd, like you think, you know, there's very few people, you know, obviously there's a couple of, you know, people that experience a fight well, but there's very few that make it to the pinnacle of the sport and get to experience the things that I've got to experience, meet the people that I've got to meet, you know, have the fights that I've got to fight. So as I'm coming towards the end of my career, I'm definitely making sure that I appreciate and value every aspect of it, the highs and the lows of, you know, fight camp and every day.
Yeah, speaking of that, you started obviously on the regional scene like everyone does, and then you eventually ended up fighting quite extensively through the States, quite a few different areas. I saw one of the last fights was in Hawaii, right? How was that for you, like as a person that had fought regionally only, then to be going over and having some fights overseas? It must open up your world a bit, right? Like it must be a bigger experience overall.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I was on the local scene. I was on the local scene at the same time as like Jessie Jess, Megan Anderson, Janae Hardy. We were all on the same scene together. So, you know, we hit the international scene at the same time. And it's cool. Just, and it's, I guess, one of the things that I like to share with the young people and being that role model is that you just enjoy the process. Like, you know, you're on this regional scene, you fight all the people here on the regional scene, you don't dodge opponents, you fight everyone on this local scene, because trust me, when you get to the international level, you know, if you're dodging people here in Australia, then you may as well just kiss that international level goodbye, because it's, you know, you don't get to pick and choose. For the most part, you don't get to pick and choose. But yeah, you shouldn't really be, you know, scared or dodging people on the local scene if the international scene is what you're looking for. But, you know, I'm very, very like blessed to be overseas and fighting over there and making a name for myself and having like my career be at the level now where each fight, you know, changes my family's circumstances. Like, you know, financially, it's, you know, I never started fighting to make money, but I'm at that level now where, you know, each fight is lucrative for me, which is awesome. But yeah, so I do miss fighting in front of Australia. I can't wait for Bellator to come here. Like, there's nothing like fighting in front of a home crowd. The Hawaiian crowd was probably the closest thing I've had, probably because I had, you know, so many people fly over from Australia to come watch that fight. But not even just them. I actually had the Hawaiian crowd, and it definitely pumped me up and lifted my performance in those last, you know, few rounds. So I'd love to fight back here in Australia, though. I definitely miss the home crowd.
Yeah, something when I was just looking into your background, something popped into my head was, you know, with your mother being Filipino, I was just thinking it will be interesting if you got to fight on ONE FC, because these guys have a massive Filipino following. They have quite a few Filipino fighters and actually have shows in Manila. So I wonder how that would be for you, because you'd get heaps of support if you showed that in your interviews and whatever, that you're, you know, proud half Filipino. I just imagine you'd get some massive support. Hey.
Yeah, well, it's I guess I haven't really pushed that side of things. I mean, you know, for the most part, people know that I'm half Filipino. I mean, I fly the Australian flag very proudly, like I'm a proud Australian, and that's the country I represent. But yeah, I am also obviously half Filipino. My mum's Filipino. It's just, I guess for me, like I can't speak Filipino. I've been there a few times growing up, but my mum raised me like, she didn't teach me much of the Filipino cultures and stuff like that. So I kind of feel like a little bit of a fraud if I was to sort of start promoting it. But yeah, for the most part, I'd love to fight there and definitely, embrace that side of, my culture. But I'd also probably have to cut half, like one of my legs off to make a weight division that they have.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. They do have some lighter weight. They generally focus on the lighter weight divisions. I didn't really think
I definitely, I mean, I could totally make bantamweight if they were to do, maybe like a one-off or something. But I mean, at the most part, because I know that there's a couple of other fighters, like girls, that we're trying to push over for a promotion on the management side of things. And we're waiting for that 135 division to sort of open up. And then, we've got a few girls that we want to push across there.
Yeah, I'm actually living in part of China, and we're close. We have a lot of Filipino people where I am. And I can teach you one thing, anak nanti paklong, means son of a grasshopper. Very useful sentence to learn. That's all I know. Let's go. I don't know. I think it's like a funny thing to say. Hey, okay. You said this morning you'd finished rolling, right? That's why you were a little bit late. Was that because you said rolling? So today was BJJ or wrestling or?
Oh, it was. So when I said I was on the mats, I've got one of my close girlfriends. She's got a fight on Super Fight on the 17th. So she just pretty much called me up and wanted me to be a punching bag for her. So yeah, just to see, just to see where she's at and just give her some rounds and obviously, be a punching bag pretty much.
Yeah. So you said on the mats, I kind of assumed it was like ground fighting. You mentioned in another interview, I think it was about a year ago, that you'd focused on the end of last year and this year to try and get your blue belt. Did you do that yet?
I did. Yes, I did get my blue belt. Thank you, Luke. I've actually, funny enough, Sydney West Martial Arts, I've got their shirt on. So I do spend a lot of time on the mats. I was actually, like when I said on the mats too, like, I mean, it's MMA training. So we actually did boxing rounds, kickboxing rounds, MMA rounds, and then situational stuff because she's preparing for an MMA fight. So it was everything. But back to my blue belt. Yes, I did get my blue belt. It's something that I want to, Luke doesn't hand out belts out of a lolling machine. It's something he made me grade. I had to sit there and do the 50 moves. I was so nervous. It was ridiculous. I said to everyone when I actually stood up and he gave me my blue belt, I was like, I was more nervous for that grading than I was for my first Cyborg fight. And everyone's like, what? And I'm just like, well, it's for me, like, it's out of, that's not my comfort zone. And actually that's what I like about it. It's, I'll rock up to a boxing session or a kickboxing session and that's my area. But wrestling and jiu-jitsu, over the years, I've learned to love it. But it's still not my favorite thing to do. And that's why I like to put so much effort into it, because I'm not the best at it, but it's because I don't like it. And I like the idea of you do the things you don't like doing and eventually you learn to love it, which I have. And everything after that seems easy. So yeah, I guess MMA as a whole now is easy because I've done the things I don't like doing.
Yeah, that's it. It's part of progression in life, right? I always tell my kids, you can't enjoy everything you do. Sometimes you have to do things you don't want to, but you just keep going, you keep pushing and you'll get better. Like piano as an example, my kid chose to be doing piano, but you got to push him a little bit.
I'm not gonna, my kids have got a keyboard and I thought the same thing too. Cause I'm like, it's beautiful when you watch people, like it's such an art, like left, like both hands. And I tried to get on and I thought I'll learn. It's actually really, really hard and I struggle, but probably should put more time into it. But credit to your kids for pursuing it, because it's not easy.
I'd say it's along the same lines, to be honest, as something like jiu-jitsu. You really have to put in the yards. You have to put in the mat time. You have to put in the practice. You can't like just jump on and do it. It's like something, there's no way that you can avoid having to keep practicing. And that's the problem, getting an 8-year-old to get on the piano every day.
But that's the beautiful thing too, because eventually, they keep putting time in. They can't get worse. They're eventually going to get better. And depending on obviously how well they do, they might do leaps and bounds, but it might just be a slow progression. But their life skills in itself is teaching, someone learning that, spending time is something they'll eventually get better, and rather than just staying in their comfort zone and doing the things that are easy for them.
That's it. And same with the jiu-jitsu, like you mentioned. I think it's, for me, when I ask a lot of people before, like if they could choose one martial art, what would they choose? And guys struggle with it, especially people that had their strength in boxing or stand-up fighting. But a lot of them anyway choose BJJ as kind of a lifelong art. They feel like it's something they can continue and kind of do and teach and whatever forever. Do you feel that way, you think? Or you think you can do the same with the boxing and that?
No, definitely. Like I've got, I was only talking to someone about it this morning in the gym, and he's an ex-football player, and, he's retired now. And he said he had a year off and he just did absolutely nothing. And now he's just trying to like get back into doing something because his body's seizing up. And I was just saying that for me, I've got a bucket list of things that I want to achieve in life, when I finish fighting. And one of those things is definitely to get my black belt. At the moment, the amount of mat time, I just don't have that. Like there's not enough hours in a week as it is. That's what I feel like with MMA. Like, you're only sort of scraping the surface. So for me to become a black belt, I just don't feel like I've got the time right now while I'm competing in MMA. But yeah, that's definitely on the bucket list to do. And I think it's easily achievable. Even for me, like in the next however long, I plan on having another child. My partner and I are going to, go back and have another baby. And he always says that, we want to put him or her straight into jiu-jitsu from a young age. Like, I think it is a lifelong skill. It's one of those things, if you can start doing from such a young age, that it's such a beautiful sport because it's always evolving too. We'll turn the next one into a little weapon from a young age.
Why not? And the thing is, if you've got the right teachers around, it can be like a fun thing for them. I did martial arts when I was young. I did karate to start with, and it was like super strict. And I kind of hated it at times. I still kicked on with it, but I kind of hated it. And but like I see the way I've got one son doing BJJ, all the others didn't want to. But he's just slowly getting it. Like, he's only doing one class a week, but over time he's just getting the movements. You see him when he's playing with his friends and have a little wrestle. He starts to go for the legs, and they just slowly pick up the movement through fun. And same with the stand up. Like, my little guys are doing stand up with me, and just over the years of doing one a day and keeping it fun and playful, they slowly getting the moves together. And when they're little, that's just amazing. They have like a natural aptitude, especially for BJJ. You get two kids two sons that rough each other up all day. They already know how to hold each other, control each other, even get the back, even get a choke. They know without even telling them. So once they have someone actually directing them and just fine pointing them, they can pick it up much easier than if they start at 18 or 20 or whatever.
Well, that's it. I mean, at that age too, they're just sponges. So I'm excited for me, like, I mean, I started all of this very, very late, and I just think, I guess it just wasn't big when I was younger either, but I mean, sport wasn't sort of something that my parents sort of like really focused a lot of attention on it anyway. So, but yeah, with both of my kids now, I make sure that they were always given all these opportunities, and for the next one, they'll be dabbling in everything.
Yeah. And how is it now? Like, it's gone out of control. Like you said, when you were younger, it wasn't such a big thing, especially MMA. Like, it was just kind of kicking off. And then, like, I'd been away for a while. I go back to Australia. I was born there near the same school I went to as Jamie Malaki up on the Central Coast of New South Wales. And go back there, there's just schools everywhere and there's shows on and everything, when there was nothing before when I left. It's just crazy, the popularity. But on the popularity side, why are you not a household name, Arlene? That's what I was wondering. You don't get the recognition you probably deserve, right? Like, you've been fighting at a very high level, fighting the beasts and whatnot. And I don't see your name that much around. I mean,
I do. Obviously, I'm fairly busy on social media, but I guess I'm kind of like that quiet fighter. I don't really have too much. It's not like there's never any controversy around me. I don't speak terribly about any like people, this and that. So maybe I need to have a little bad publicity or something for the most part, but I'm not sure. You know what, the biggest thing probably and it's, I made the decision years ago not to go across to the UFC. I've had multiple opportunities, and that probably there is the one reason, like, because, UFC, if you're in the UFC, it's a household name. And you do become well known that way. So I had chosen loyalty with a promotion, like staying with Bellator over, I guess, fame. I'm happy with my decision. I'm happy with where I'm at. So In the fight world, in the combat world, I am well known though. Like I get to train at some of the best gyms in the world. Like I'm driving down to Freestyle tomorrow. I get to, train with Alex. I train with Joe's one of my coaches. I fly overseas. I've trained at Jackson Wink. I'm known in the combat world, and I get to rub shoulders with some very well, famous MMA fighters. So, and I call them my friends. So, that's important to me. I'm happy with that.
You've kind of chosen a noble path in a way, right? Like you've maintained your personality. You haven't gone off track and tried to turn yourself into Conor McGregor or something. You've kept your morals high and everything. That's an honorable thing as well, choosing that over just trying to make yourself popular, which is what a lot of people do even before they have the skills these days, right?
Yeah. And I'm not discrediting anyone else that's already well-known fighter coming out of Australia saying that that's what they did, because so that's no disrespect to anybody else, and that right there probably is the reason why I'm not well-known, because I'm just I stay on my path. When my fighting's all said and done, I'll still have very close relationships with all the people that I'm close with now, and my life probably won't change much for the sense that I just won't be competing, but I'll be in the sport in other aspects, managing, coaching, this and that. But I'm happy with what I've managed to do in the sport, and it's not like when I finish competing, much will change for me, I don't think. So.
Yeah, man, I've heard you, like you mentioned about freestyle MMA down there with Joe Lopez and obviously some of the lads down there. I actually talked into Colby Thickness. Was actually the first time I talked about you to someone was him, actually, before I asked for an interview with you. And a lot of banter going on down there. How do you find that, gym?
Awesome. I love it. I love it. It's so I'm the favorite apparently. So I'm Joe's favorite. So it's funny. You go there and you think you got Alex Volkanovski. He's now the pound for pound best fighter in the world. But Joe still calls me his favorite. So, but I love it. Like it's just, they're so Australian down there. And when I go overseas, I got to spend heaps of time over there, and I love being at Jackson Wink. But I also love being here at home. Like I'm very, very lucky that the gyms that I train with and I walk in the doors and they all make me feel at home. Like Joe's a great coach. Colby's great. He's got a massive future. We've got Justin that's fighting the Eternal main event. On the 17th.
Actually, Colby's also fighting on the same card now.
Yeah. I actually put up on my story yesterday that both boys are on. So
me too.
Colby's Justin too. Justin's made huge improvements in the time that he's been at Freestyle. But Colby, I'm just excited for him just to rack up a few more pro fights, and you'll see him in the UFC without a doubt.
Yeah, he's had a bad run, with COVID and then a few other things happening. Yeah, not the best run, but let's hope he can go forward from here. You also, I heard you mention James Tehuna, obviously legend of Australian MMA, early days of the UFC. I did an interview with him before as well. And you mentioned Tyson Pedro as well, that he was a big influence along with his dad. Like these guys are top guys, right?
Yeah, I know. This is what I'm saying. Like when I get, like, I'm very, very lucky to have all the people that I've had and still continue. Like, Jamie was my coach for a long time. He cornered some of my fights. I remember when I first started training at Beasting, so I used to live at Port Macquarie then, and I used to drive all the way down here to Western Sydney and train. And at that time, Jamie was still fighting. I think he was just towards the end of his career. I think he might have been in camp leading up to his last fight that he had. But I was just a little bit starstruck. I was like, holy shit, it's like James Tehuna. I was like this little nervous shy girl in the gym, and would hardly sort of speak two words to him. And then over the years now I'm just like, oh, Jamie, and I'm like, it's just Jamie. But I remember 8 years ago I was so nervous to talk to him. So now I've got a good friendship with him, and obviously he's coached me for years. And then Tyson Pedro, he's just like my big little brother. And then so they've all done a lot for me. Tyson's one of my closest mates, and him and his family we've got a very close relationship with. So
good to see him super successful in his last 2 comeback fights as well. Can't wait to see the next.
For anyone that's been super close to him and seeing his journey, obviously with his knee surgeries and just the roller coaster, and like I said, I'm close with his family too, and just the win's there for him too, because he deserves it going through it, but the win for him and his family and everything, there's only a handful of people that I get nervous for and actually feel like it's me getting in there and fighting sort of thing. And when they fight and then obviously have the performances, like the 2 last fights that he had, it was awesome. Like we both fought on the same day. So on the 23rd of April, that was for his comeback fight. And I was obviously fighting the same day in Hawaii. So I was getting ready to have my afternoon rest that I would normally have before my fight. But then he's walking out and it was me, my partner, and both Tyson and I, strength and conditioning coach, Mia Orney from Ethos. He was over in Hawaii with me. So we're sitting around the little screen watching his fight. And obviously he fought and he won. And I remember looking up at Dion and Mia, and they're like crying, I'm crying. We were just all the emotions, just to see him pull it all together after years of being on the sideline and having that cool performance. And then his last one, the 1 minute, gosh, that liver kick to the stomach looked terrible. So
absolutely amazing to see. Hey, I wanted to talk about what gives you that intestinal fortitude. Something that pops out of my mind when I think of you, something I wanted to bring up was seeing you in there with Cyborg in the second match, calling her into the center, like to throw down. That's kind of an amazing moment, you know, someone like, you know, just showing that grit to be doing that sort of thing in there against one of the best ever, you know? Yeah. Where does that come from? Because you seem like a pretty relaxed sort of person. Your life, honestly, from what I listened, was kind of relatively normal life growing up in a small town, etc. Where does it come from?
Honestly, that moment, even my partner, like I don't know. It's obviously deep down, something in my subconscious or something. I guess, you know, all those sessions where you dig deep and you give it absolutely everything, even though you're wrecked, and you just, for me, I just want that Bellator title. Like, that's the 3rd time I fought for it. You know, it slipped through my hands when Julie and I fought. You know, obviously Cyborg beat me the first time easily, convincingly, and we've worked hard. You know, I've worked hard. My coaches have worked hard. It's been, my family's sacrificed a lot. Like, to get that second shot with Cris, it was like, and to be fair, in the change rooms before that fight, I was telling myself, I'm like, fuck, Arlene, just, you know, this is one last go. I didn't know whether or not I was going to retire after it. I didn't know if I was going to, you know, once I won that belt, if I was going to hang the gloves up. Because for me, the ultimate goal is just to win that Bellator belt. So after that, it's like, the ultimate goal was to beat Cyborg and win that Bellator belt. After that, there's, you know, I don't feel like there's anything else in my career that would like make anything better than that. So I was just telling myself that this.
Sorry, you don't feel like a third? Like, it's an upward trajectory, right? Like submission, points, competitive points loss. Next one is a win, right? So just hit again.
I mean, I'll jump back in with like in 8 weeks' time if you. I was going to say tomorrow, but trust me, I'm not in any state to fight tomorrow.
Well, the thing is that you know, your love is, or your main focus or love and thing you want to do more of is boxing. She also wants to step into the boxing arena. Do you think there's any chance that might happen?
I did make that point known a couple of times on my social media, but I did say it in an interview. Like, for me, I actually think it would be really cool to have a trilogy of MMA, kickboxing, with the Bellator promotion, use their kickboxing platform, and a boxing fight. You know, have all three against each other. Like, Cris and I have got huge respect for each other. We had a lot of conversations at each other inside that cage. It was, you know, I knocked her down one time and acknowledged it, and like there's a lot of like sort of little just nods and things. I don't know if, you know, you can kind of capture that watching it or like watching it on things, but yeah, when that 25 minutes was done, there was just a level of respect there for each other when you've just gone to war. But yeah, for sure, like I'd be down to do it again. I don't know, I honestly don't know what's happening with her and Bellator now. Like, if she's staying with the promotion, I'm not sure. You know, obviously if she leaves, that leaves Kat and I at the top to fight for a vacant title. I don't know when Kat wants to fight next. So this is the thing. Like, I just know that I want to fight this year, so I'm not waiting around for that Bellator title. I just want to fight. So it's kind of why I'm making it vocal with this one girl that called me out for a rematch. So I was like, oh well, I'll fight her.
Yep. So it's an interesting one. So we'll just wait to see. So I heard you say back last year that you wanted to give last year and this year a bit of a hard run, have 4 or so fights, think about boxing and that. But this sounds like things could be shaken up a little bit. It could be continued a bit more. And then you're complicating it by wanting to have another baby too. What's the plan? What's your immediate plan, long-term plan?
Yeah, well, I just signed another 4-fight deal with Bellator. So I want to have a fight at the end of this year. I want to have a fight again at the beginning of next year. I'll probably slot a 16-month break in there to have a baby. And then like my ultimate goal now is I want to be the longest active female fighter winning. I don't want to just be jumping in there and being somebody's stepping stone. Like I want to be at the top of my level and still winning fights. And you look at Glover, what was he, 42 when he won the light heavyweight title. So for me, like you said, I'm in an upward trajectory at the moment. Like I'm not going downhill. Obviously, I don't want to have too many fights like my last fight with Cyborg. I know I've got that in me. I'll bite down on mouth guard and throw, but it's just like when you see the heavyweights, like that sort of damage, like trust me that I was sore. Once that adrenaline wore out after that fight, I was sore. The next day I was very sore. So I don't want to have too many wars like that, but yeah, I just know that at the moment, like I said, when I was warming up for that fight, I had the idea of retirement on my mind. And then as soon as that fight finished, I knew that I wasn't retiring. Like I proved to myself, there was multiple times in that fight, that first round when I copped the illegal knee and I sat there and I was just like, Arlene, excuse the language, but I was like, wake the fuck up. And then, in the third round, I had the ref and the doctor addressing this cut and telling me that if I wanted a way out, that they could give me a way out because the cut's not bad enough to stop. And I was just like, fuck no. And there was just, like I said, multiple times in that fight when I could have quit and I didn't. And that just proved to me that I'm not ready. And since then, I've had some terrible training sessions, strength and conditioning sessions where I'm on the bike and I've got to meet targets and where you want to quit, but I'm digging deep and I'm pushing through. So I know that I've got a lot more to give. It's when you start quitting in those times is when you probably should hang up the gloves and call it a day, but I'm not ready to call it a day yet.
You definitely sound like you've got the gold in your mind and you've got the drive to get there. So why not? Why not keep pushing while you can? Yeah. And I wish you all the best of luck on that. It'll be great.
No, thank you. Thank you.
And I hope we get you some more recognition in the mainstream media.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Anyway, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I would like to talk to you a little bit more in the future if I can with maybe some of the upcoming fights, see how you're preparing, see afterwards, this sort of thing. After your win, of course.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much for your time and take care.
All right. Thanks. Bye.